I'm David Marinac. Welcome to the Repackaging Revolution podcast, where we interview and learn from packaging professionals throughout North America and beyond. Our focus has always been on promoting and encouraging the packaging profession, along with those who make it special. The name of today's show, Join the Packaging Revolution. Say hello to optimized supply chain solutions. Today's guest is Jeff Tischleder, CEO of ITB Packaging based in Holland, Michigan. Jeff's company has designed and developed innovative packaging solutions using 100% recyclable paper-based designs that not only protect the individual product, they can increase packaging density by up to 50%. The cool part of today's show is Jeff will give us some background on how he got into this space, but then we've got some case studies where we can really kind of dig in and learn more and really kind of get hands-on with what they do at ITB. So Jeff Tischleder, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, David. Very excited to be here.
I love this platform for the simple fact that, and you and I were talking offline, because it allows me to kind of get to know and guys like yourself and then kind of learn about that business and obviously share the, we're both passionate about being in the space of packaging. We're both passionate about the industry itself. And, one of the things that we'll get to eventually in today's episode is really trying to encourage young people, if you will, Jeff, on, packaging as a profession and, packaging as a way to have a career, a really, really sound and solid career. So, but again, I digress, but let's get started. I mean, you have a mergers and acquisition background. Tell us how that all kind of came about and how you discovered, I guess you will, and then ITB and kind of got involved with that.
Yeah, I spent about 14 years with a packaging company called Marinac. And through that period, there was multiple private equity ownership groups that kind of gave me exposure to the process, to what the expectations are, around equity sponsors in terms of growth and acquisition and strategy. And so spent about 10 years doing some M&A work, both buy and sell side advisory. And a lot of it was, relegated to protective packaging and corrugated.
Sure.
And my thought process there was I wanted to stay focused in the industry that had some relevant experience, but also hopefully a period of time develop some really strong C-suite relationships. And so through that, I was able to do some buy and sell side advisory for companies that were either looking to acquire a platform or perhaps bolt-ons. And so did some work in the protective packaging space, as well as helped some people buy some sheet plants and some other corrugated related assets. So, over the years, developed hopefully a pretty good Rolodex of customers. And one day I got a phone call from an ex-customer I helped sell a business of his. And he said, "Hey, been a while since I caught up with you, but you're either going to love me or hate me for what I'm about to tell you." And so that kind of prepped the call. But needless to say, he had recommended me to a group of investors who are looking at acquiring a packaging company in Holland, Michigan. And he remembered that I had a summer home nearby there and somehow was discussing that with that group and committed me to take the meeting.
Thanks, friend.
Yeah, thanks, friend.
Thanks.
And so I said, "Listen, I'm looking at going to work for one of the companies I'm doing some consulting for, but happy to take a look at the business, give me some thoughts and ideas and recommendations." So took that meeting and over time got to know the group fairly well and the asset. And one thing led to another. And in 2019, that group bought majority interest in ITB Packaging. And time means everything, as you know, that 2020,
100%.
2020 COVID rolls around. So but anyway, a little bit on background there. And
so let's kind of step back. You mentioned Ranpak, correct? That's a Cleveland company back in the day. And I think they're still kind of based or around here, but you were spot on. I remember, being in this space and being in Cleveland for 25, 30 years at Ranpak it's kind of like you said, it's changed hands many different times from the original founding fathers, if you will, into different types of mergers or different type of M&A acquisitions. And I just remember it sort of bounced around, but it's always been that paper-based product. If I did, do I have that right?
Yeah, correct. Even still, the company was founded in 1972.
Right.
So, had 50 plus years. And they've always been committed to paper-based products and sustainability.
Right.
And a big fan of even today is I have a fairly good relationship with the current CEO and chairman of their commitment. And I think their tagline is deliver a better world.
Yeah.
And so I give them a lot of credit for not chasing things that might be shiny and opportunistic at the time, but really staying focused to that whole environmental and paper-based strategy. And so it's been interesting to see what's happened. I started with a company that was about a $25-30 million company, and now it's something in excess of $300 million. And so it's great to see the growth.
Yeah, and and again, sustainability, of course, as you know, in this packaging space. Before we really dig into what ITB does and specializes in, but I find it interesting. I don't know about you, but a lot of people really confuse the terminology. I want sustainable. You mean recyclable? Yeah, that.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you mean biodegradable? That too. Do you find that in your world? I know in my little segment, we need to, not just in the Rand Packs of the world or ITB or ABC or anybody, we need to do a better job of really defining those words of what this actually means. Would you agree? I mean, I just think they're blended together.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And you talk about sustainability, and I think, 30, 40 years ago, people talked about sustainability, but I don't think really acted on it.
Right.
But I don't know your thoughts of it today. I think sustainability is here to stay. You have companies now developing ESG goals and sustainability reports and making public announcements about things they're doing for, the climate change. And so, but I think you think about recycling and compostability, those types of things. I think there does need to be more education in that space. You hear curbside recycled, you hear 100% biodegradable, you hear posts of those things. And I think there's certain cases where it gets to be a mixed message, but at the end of the day, it's drawing attention to what I think, is a really serious topic in the world today.
100%.
The sustainability. So.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I've had the privilege of meeting and talking with a lot of people in different facets of this space, and some from the UK, some here domestically, some from Brazil. And we all kind of have that same problem. It's the education. We need to educate, yes, in these smaller countries when it comes to like a Finland or Norway that can recycle 98% of whatever it is. Good for them. God bless them. That's great. But here in the States, we have such an issue with clearly, explaining to people what's recyclable, what isn't recyclable, is it curbside, where does it go, which receptacle to put it in. And if there's anything that drives me nuts is that, we are creatures of habit, especially in the US, and we are lazy by nature. So if we're not told what to do, put it here, green, blue, red, I don't care what it is, but do something. And I just think somebody is going to crush it if they ever get to the point where they can kind of streamline, or maybe get the politicians or get the federal government or something to streamline this, so we really know what's recyclable, what's biodegradable, what needs to go to the landfill. And that's when we can start making change. Because right now, I guarantee you, your rules in Holland, Michigan are different than my rules in Cleveland, Ohio. And that's a huge problem.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think a lot of times, depending on the company and the products that they make, whether they're plastic or paper or resin-based, you have narratives that I think fit that individual company's perspective and product line. And so sometimes that might skew the message in terms of what really is recyclable and sustainable. And are you using resins that are sustainable, but you're still creating emissions in the production of it? Are you, zero carbon, those types of things that are out there. But I think there needs to be more attention paid to defining those processes, what is truly recyclable. But to your point also is, making sure there's mechanisms there that are easy for people to dispose of those into those containers or something. So
exactly. And get it to the right place, because at the end of the day, I mean, it's interesting here in Cleveland, and it's when I had a chance to visit there's a local landfill pretty much out near that way where Ranpack was back in the day. It's called Glen Willow, but Glen Willow butts up against this very high end housing development. Now, one of the worst things about trash and landfills is, of course, if you get a good whiff of whatever's being delivered that day. Now, these are $500,000 or $1 million homes, and that quickly, and my big issue is I don't care whether it's paper or biodegradable or plastic. As soon as it gets to a landfill, and because trash smells and they bury it, nothing is going to break down. Nothing's going to, because they try to deaden the odor with that. And that's where we have to really think this thing through and really make sure that everybody, and we're beating this dead horse, but I mean, it goes round and round and round and go in circles. But yeah, we're both saying the same thing.
No, I agree.
Well, let's talk about ITB. So give us a little bit of a background in what it is that you do. We're going to dig in a little bit on some case studies, which I think really will hit it home. But what was it that, again, being in that sort of like, hey, Jeff, take a look at this company for us and maybe you can, really be involved here and run it. What was it that drew you to that space, if you will, of ITB? And then tell us what really separates you guys.
First, ITB stands for in the box. So I think people a lot of times try to figure out, is it somebody's last name or initial of the kids or whatever? But ITB packaging stands for in the box packaging. And I think when I first visited the first facility we had here in Holland, it was interesting to see that we were using master rolls of kraft liner board paper, and we were using some automated equipment that have been custom designed for our process. Of course, our products are patented and a pretty good intellectual property portfolio that we have around those patents. But it was a differentiator or a problem solver type product, and that really attracted me. Not only the paper, and the sustainability, but I think we think about what do your products really do, and hopefully they're not just a commodity where
there you go.
Me too, less five. You're really trying to go at it from a consultative approach, and I believe at that point that this product really has some unique capabilities. It can be scalable with the right applications. And, so that natural paper base, which paper is in my DNA. I got into the business a long time ago, but my grandfathers, both of them worked in the paper industry, multiple uncles. So there was always kind of this natural affinity for me with paper. And so when we took a look at that, I saw the process, I saw the product, be it sustainable, recyclable, reusable, and then kind of the value streams that I felt the company could create for customers, not only in automotive, but outside of automotive. Is I think as you've probably seen too, all industries, I think, even pre-COVID, but certainly during COVID and post-COVID, are kind of tasked with, a limited labor pool, and challenges in finding and retaining labor.
Sure.
And I thought if we could not only address that internally at ITB, but knowing that our customers are going through those same types of challenges, being able to attract and retain people and being able to find ways to minimize repetitive motions or make setup times, virtually non-existent, and kind of streamline the process. It just seemed to me all things were lining up, for me to take a deeper dive into the company, and then ultimately we came to agreement on acquiring the company. And since then, done a lot of really neat things internally around product development, automating equipment, and then in terms of customers, we're beginning to diversify, continue to stay in the automotive industry. And I say it's not an abandonment, it's more of a diversification, but also try to get into, segments of the market that are growing, kind of level set our business so we're not so highly concentrated in one segment. So that's kind of where we're at today. It's continuing that mission.
Well, you'd mentioned a couple of things which I think are so synonymous with what we all go through in the packaging space. Is trying to, you mentioned diversification. I mentioned, I kind of refer to it as being different, offering something that not everybody can do. You called it not being that commodity guy, and I totally get it, because one of the goals of this podcast and sharing and meeting guys like you is to try to encourage people of getting in the packaging space and being in this industry. And the one thing that just there's the commodity guys that we've all grown up with that are knocking on doors. Those that just, but it's the problem solvers. It's ones that can separate their company from the rest, which is kind of what I see in ITB really doing. Because even through, and we'll get to the case studies, but even through that, everything had almost like a North Star. We are going to improve part density in these containers, which of course will then allow the end user or whoever is, to maximize how much is going into a container and blah, blah, blah. Or you're going to create something that's going to protect that painted surface that needs to be, all those kind of things. And those value add things, I can't stress that enough with our salespeople. And I'd love to get your take. I can't stress that enough because that's what really brings margin. When we're really able to help somebody where the customers, by the way, this is plainly for everyone to know that we want to make money. We're all in this to make money. We're not looking to gouge anybody, but there's higher margins when we can really create something different that nobody can really do. And I just find that is the easiest way to really prosper in this space. Love to hear your take.
Yeah, that's great. Great overview on it. And being in the business for a long time, I've seen a lot of different strategies around sales. And I think what I say to our team, as well as our brokers and channel partners, is ask those probing questions to your prospective customers and prospects. What are their burning platforms? What are the pain points that they're having? What challenges do they foresee? I think so many times, and I'm even guilty of this at times, is we show up and we throw off. All we do is we talk about ourselves and talk about our company and our applications, and we're not really listening to what the customers' problems are. We're trying to solve a problem just by our solutions, and we don't even know what the problem is. So I think the more time that we spend really listening and asking those probing questions, and then figuring where those opportunities lie within our technology and our space that fit to resolve what those customer challenges are. So I think that's a big thing.
100%. And you nailed it in the fact that the listening is so critical. And again, I mean, when I talk to sales reps or packaging resellers or anybody in my space, I often ask, and I'm amazed, I don't know if you go through this too. It's like, why are they looking? What's the project? What is the pain point they're having? And when they can't answer that question, that tells me they just went in there and just sort of, showed up and thrown up.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, guys, then go back. Because, if somebody's not willing to tell you why they're looking, a lot of times it's a new product. Okay, fine, new product. But most of the time they're looking because they're having a problem with somebody else, or they're having a problem with the lead time or delivery. And price is always an issue. We get that. But I mean, it drives me crazy when a reseller is more into talking about themselves and what they can do and looking at making a deal than actually taking care of that customer and building that raving fan where they're going like, man, these guys really came through for us and we want to give them more stuff. So it drives me crazy. Just curious on your take.
I'm totally with you on that. And I say it to, our team and teams I've managed in the past is be a student of the game. So if you're thinking about looking at a new customer prospect, spend time on the website, try to figure out not only their products and personnel, but what are some of the challenges that they might be publicly stating on there. And we're doing something pretty unique now. I'm really proud of the relatively small company. We're doing some persona-based research through our inside and outside marketing departments, where if we're focused on a company, we'll spend a lot of time on their website trying to figure out exactly where the locations are, what is the product, who are the competitors. But then we identify the people that we want to call on: chief supply chain officer, packaging engineering. And in many cases, we're able to find stuff about them that they may have said publicly in some type of forum or a Pack Expo or something. Like, our company is committed to doing this. And it allows us, I think, when we reach out to them at an initial call, to learn and understand really not only what the company's going through, but that individual, what they're tasked with and what their thoughts and values are. And I
think
see
that's
that
brilliant.
Yeah. We just see a
Yeah, I
natural
think it's brilliant.
Yeah. So,
Well, and that also is a unique way of separating yourself and being different. Meaning, when you're able to reference something that somebody mentioned before at a Pack Expo, or maybe somebody was interviewed on so and so, and to be able to bring that up where they're talking about their sustainability goals for 2025, and now you're very very viable in that conversation. I also heard another, and I'll just share this with you too, which I think is, again, it's the younger people. Jeff, you and I have been around for a while, but a lot of people are doing research on things like Instagram, and they're going out and seeing whoever that end customer is. Let's just say it's a Ford Motor Company or Honda or something like that. But the point is that they may have posted something on their Instagram account about their upcoming goals for such and such and such. And I just was on a webinar where a guy mentioned that's their main research, and they're going to find that, and then they're going to do and reach out to those companies and say, look, I saw that you have XYZ goal, or you've been posting about your recent changes to your supply chain based upon sustainability goals or something like that. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, anything from a sales perspective to get us to separate ourselves from the rest of the pack and get that person to listen or to pay attention initially is just brilliant. I totally love that. It's great.
No, I agree. And I think one of the things that I think we started looking at through this diversification strategy was really trying to understand customers in the food and beverage and meal home kit delivery, some things that just really exploded during COVID. Of course, restaurants were shut down, grocery stores are limited, people's buying habits changed dramatically. And what our team did is we would go to the Instagram, we'd go to the LinkedIn, we'd go to Facebook, we would also go to YouTube and try to find unboxing videos of that specific target. So in the meal home kit, where we think our product naturally solves some problems around temperature control that also eliminates the shifting and migration in the box, we wanted to see what that unboxing experience is like for the customer. It's amazing how many people post those. I was shocked when I saw that, but I think it's very interesting and telltale into, what's going on, what problems the customer is seeing when the product arrives, and then we can help focus our, initial pitch or benefit statement around that.
I think that's really cool because I know when you and I were younger, we didn't take pictures of our meal when we were sitting down. We obviously didn't have phones, but I mean, I'm amazed at people that take. I mean, I sit there with my wife or our kids, and they're looking. I'm like, just eat. No, it looks really good. I'm going to share this with my friends that I got a steak at such and such. Like, okay, but you're right. I mean, I totally have seen, especially in those meal kits. I mean, because there is some real thought that goes into those. Making sure that there's a pad of ice and then something over top of it, paper based, and for the meat or whether to separate the produce or ready to make kits. So that's fascinating. I did not even think that, but I could totally see you guys in that space. Totally.
Yeah. No, we're excited about it. And if you're willing to do some of the investigation and look through some of the channels that are available, it's amazing what our team finds. And then we take it to another level. In some cases, we'll become a subscriber to that and we'll order product in, right? So we bring it in and we'll video the whole process from time the box arrives. How does the outer box look? The unboxing experience, that initial moment of truth when you open up the box and you see the items in there. And we'll video catalog all that. Then they'll start to think about, well, what recommendations would we make, given our technology and some of our solutions that would be able to solve it. And then we'll generally repack it in our solution and send it back to somebody within that company. And I think it shows a couple of things. One, that you're really astute with the game. You're really, not only a customer, you're taking time to not only think about how it arrived and what areas of improvement, but coming up with a solution that customer can hopefully pique your interest enough to say, well, we'd like to do some testing or exploration of that. So that's a couple of things that we really try to do here is that secret shopper experience. Go online and look at videos around unboxing and delivery or reviews, and then try to develop some, common themes coming out of that. So.
Well, I just, good for you guys, because in this day and age, I mean, so many companies, and I know you know this, we're just talking as friends, but I mean, so many companies like we described with the traditional packaging reseller looking to make a deal. They're going from A to Z. They're not going to B, C, and D in between to kind of set the stage for, hey, is this guy even aware that their packaging is not sufficient or not sufficient, not efficient, or they're and it's things like that that really it takes a little time. But when we do that, we're now swimming in that what they call that blue ocean, right? We're now out there on our own because somebody actually, and again, this too, Jeff, where a lot of people, you get to the wrong guy, they could care less.
Yeah.
Like, whatever, big deal. I want to pay 15 cents. It doesn't matter. Well, that's fine. You'll be out of business next week. But the other one that's worried about, like, wait a minute. Yeah, this doesn't look good. And the stuff got there damaged and bruised. And this really, and again, in this day and age of social media, where the first thing somebody does is pick up their phone to show that their potatoes got smashed on the way in because it was just an inept design.
Yeah.
You could lose, not only lose customers, but you could really tank the business.
No, absolutely. Yeah, and I think
interesting.
When we take a look at some of these opportunities, specifically branded companies or CPG-related companies, we try to get marketing involved as well. Historically, in packaging, in industrial packaging, you're generally dealing with operations or procurement or packaging engineers,
good point,
which are all critical, right? They have to make sure it flows through their operations effectively. Yeah, it hits whatever automation levels they have, those types of things. But for us, we try to get marketing involved, try to get logistics and transportation involved, as well as the packaging and procurement side, because I think if we can get all three of those different disciplines together in a room or have some type of commonality around solving a problem, I think your likelihood of getting a sale is substantially greater. But I think you also learn a lot more about the business because marketing is going to tell you.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the more they look at you, which is such a great tie-in my next question, because the more you're able to really get enmeshed with this, the project, the company, the people, let's face it, the more they're willing to say, Jeff, you know what, we're really up against it. We gotta, we really need some help with X. And, we have a problem with this retailer. And, and again, it's about taking the time, just like you're describing, doing your legwork, really looking at the big picture, which leads to my question. And it's interesting because a lot of times in these episodes, I deal with companies like yourself that become such a trusted partner for whoever their client is. I don't care whether it's the supplier to the company or the actual end user of the product, whatever it is. And then they suddenly, because it comes up all the time where they go, hey, Jeff, can you get this for us? Like, for example, in the food space where somebody goes, can you get this vacuum material for us for our, for these kits, for example? And a lot of these guys, don't know where to go. And a lot of these guys don't, for example, we're doing work with Harry and David, that gourmet, pairs, but they have a whole line of gourmet soups that need to go into like a retort pouch. And a reseller kind of got involved with this and they go, I don't know what this stuff is. Do you guys kind of dabble with that? Or do you just sort of, just try to stay in your lane, so to speak?
It's a great question. I think we try to, the way I look at it is, I think Richard Branson said this, is if a customer gives you an opportunity and you don't have a solution today, say yes and find that solution, right? Because if it's a key customer, I want them to come to us first. And I want 100%. Them to think that we're going to do everything we can to solve whatever the problem is. If that means us sourcing external products and co-packing them, kitting them, inventorying them, I'm all for that. I think, the more a customer relies on you, the more defensible your business is there over time. And it's harder, certainly, for somebody to come in and replace you. But yeah, we try to do it too, because I think in our automotive side, there's some things that we don't make in-house, obviously, that we do need to source and try to work with customers on best solutions that complement our product or whatever their idea of goals should be to solve. And a lot of times it's, part damage or, optimization of the facility, right? They rather have a warehouse or production facility for the critical raw materials they use or finished goods. So they look at packaging as kind of this overhead or third-party cost that
anybody could do packaging, Jeff. Anybody, any dog with a note in his mouth. Okay,
no, I know. But no, you make a good point there, and I think anytime you really want to be looked at as a key critical supplier to your customers, you got to be open to looking at some things that historically maybe you won't or won't have in the past. So we do that here at ITB. Very proud of our team. Our team gets really creative around finding complementary products to ours that help solve over our customer needs.
I hope you like this content. If you want more of it, I put together a specialized packaging alliance, a group of packaging professionals that are in different facets of this industry. We have webinars, we have meetings. The idea is to share information about this great industry of packaging, whether that be from the sales side of things to the marketing, even to the end users. My point with this is I'd love to have you join us, the Specialized Packaging Alliance. Check out the link below to learn more. Thanks. It's such a lost art because a lot of times when you and I kind of got into this space, I'm just guessing but you and I are very similar in the fact that there was always those people that go, no, don't do that. Don't handle plastic. Yeah. No, you know what? And it's so foolish, especially in this day and age where companies don't have that existing. I remember way back when, and I know you do too, when, you'd go on the Hoover Company or Moen Faucets or whoever it is, and they had a stable of 15 or 20 buyers. Mm-hmm. And one guy handled paper, one guy handled plastic, one guy. Now we've eliminated those people, or they have. Yeah. And you've got a clerk that calls themselves a buyer. And it's just and the more, just back to your point, that we can become an asset to whether it's that buyer or the whoever the guys that got skin in the game, that's just only going to grow our business exponentially because now we've got that ability to kind of, handle and like you said, kit it, put it together in a pack, whatever it is. That's just found money.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I try to teach our team, and sometimes we'll have conversations about prospects, and I'll say, listen, time is our greatest commodity, right? We have X amount of time during the day to be in front of customers, and we want to make sure, that we're in front of the right customer, but also the right person within that customer. If it's purely transactional and they just want you to quote a price without talking about any of the current challenges or, match this density or whatever, I say to our team, that's a quick race to zero, right? We're never going to get anywhere with that. So focus on areas where you can hopefully get to the people that are key decision makers and the people that are really probably responsible for solving whatever the pain point they are. Invest and focus the time on that. And ask, again, just continue to ask questions. I say to our team all the time is, if you think you've asked enough questions, ask a couple more because you probably haven't, right?
Exactly.
And you start to build not only trust and confidence with that person, but that knowledge that helps you really focus on what your solution's going to be. So, no, I agree with you. I think it's through consolidation or whatever you've seen companies outsource their packaging engineering now, right? And some cases outsource your procurement. And in those cases, you really have to get a good understanding of what this third party's desirability 100%. Is, or how they're compensated, or how they cost save. They share a percentage of cost save. So a lot of things that are changing out there, but it keeps us on our toes and keeps us focused on trying to find solutions that.
Well, 100%, and it's still, and again, we're still in the mix, and the more we're out there swinging it, and swinging for the fences. Not all the time, but I mean, trying to hit singles and doubles and those kind of things. I get that. I'm curious of your take. And this is just I don't want to say a pet peeve, but it's something I really feel passionate about is the traditional packaging reseller, the traditional guy that we've all worked with for 20 years, 25 years, and they're the jack of all trades and that kind of stuff. But the one thing and I don't know if this is the same in your world, but I'm just noticing a lot of these established seasoned packaging resellers are really, it's like trying to teach an old dog new tricks and trying to get them to go away from initially starting a conversation about price. initially starting a conversation about, and I guess it just ties back to what you and I have been talking about. So many spend more time talking than listening. But I see the packaging resellers as a huge opportunity out there if they could just embrace the fact it's a different, like you said, this market is changing. And if you're going to try to fit a square peg in a round hole, and well, it's the way I've always done it, well, you might as well line up and go to Walmart as a greeter because it's not going to work. People need to be able, and I'm just curious, that's what I see. Does that ring a bell or resonate with you at all?
Yeah. And, I think, well, that date back to 25, 30 years ago when I started distribution partners, when I was at Marinac and other companies, you set them up. And then I would always say to the teams is, you fight for the mind share within that company. Then there's 10 other suppliers that are trying to fight for the sales reps teams. And, but more importantly, find the people within that company that you think are capable and willing and interested in focusing on maybe a longer sales cycle than perhaps in late time. But it is differentiated. It does solve a problem. And then that's where you spend your time investing in those people within those sugar houses that really understand that. And I think you find most of the time they're the most successful of those sales representatives.
You said something that's so spot on. It's the longer sales cycle, Jeff. It's the things that take a little bit longer than just this is a custom packaging. I don't care whether it's your world, my world, whatever it may be, it's not an off the shelf Uline type of Granger type of deal. There's a thought process, and there's got to be a design process, and we have to think this through, and who's the end user, and where is it going to be stored, or where is it going to be shipped, whatever that may be. And so often, again, back to that kind of mindset about everybody in such a hurry, we need to be willing, at least I know with resellers, we try to really emphasize, go the long route. Take samples, do a test run. Don't go for the jugular. Don't take an order yet, because these guys are so desperate sometimes when the pain is so great. I just had a customer that did this, and they're like, can you run this now? I'm like, I don't want to run that now because we haven't even spec'd the material yet.
Okay.
And, we would look like a fool if we kind of came in there and it didn't work. We want to be the backup supplier. We want to be a second string quarterback. We don't want to be your first string yet. And that's just a longer sales cycle. And it's a different mindset, Jeff. It's maybe the younger people can grasp that easier, but some of these old timers, man, they're just really set in their ways.
Yeah. Well, as I get older, the long sales cycle is working against me, but
Me too.
But I do
I get you.
Yeah, I do say, although the sales cycle may be long, we got to find ways to try to shorten that by keeping the project relevant, keeping the process fluid, solving those problems as they arise. And then I was asking for the order. I think what you see sometimes is people do all that work, and at the end of it, they don't ask for the order. They're like, now that I've satisfied all these issues and challenges.
And giving them all that free consulting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll just take it out and source it to a bunch of other people. I always say, hey, this investment I'm making in you was expectation that if I solve all these problems we identified, that at the end of that process, you're going to award me the business. Not only because it's the most competitive situation or solution and we've done this testing, but the whole process that we've invested in, time from our people, time from your people, sampling, the drop testing, all those different things that go into it. So it's not for the faint of heart sometimes.
Especially where it gets so cutthroat and so many times, and I've seen this too, and you and I, we haven't been around this long to not, that'll happen once or twice where somebody really just takes your design because we didn't ask for the order or whatever. But that upfront, that Sandler sales kind of concepts, and the fact that upfront contract, okay, Sam, if we're going to sit here and do this design and lay this all out, what's in it for me? Because I'm going to do the work, but what's in it? And by the way, saying that I'm going to be allowed, I had this happen to me at Lear years ago. We're going to allow you to quote on this. Wait, hold on one second. I just spent the last 4 weeks designing this for you and having CAD designs and bringing samples in, and that's what I get out of this? No thanks. That happened one time, and I'm like, nope. And then pretty soon, 2 weeks later, I get the formal You can quote on your own design. No, not doing that.
Yeah.
Not doing that.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I wanted to just get into, because one of the things I wanted to do is I'm going to share my screen here.
Okay.
I have a couple of your case studies. Is there anyone in particular? You've got a tier 1 optimizing packaging efficiency or e-commerce case study. Anything, Jeff, you want me to kind of start with first?
I think tier 1 is a really good example of how we go problem solving.
Perfect. Now, can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay, perfect. So basically, and again, for those listeners, we always include these things when we send out the links, but take us through this, Jeff. I mean, what you've got here is obviously it looks like some parts, but take us through this, because I mean, we've got some corrugated. Give us a little bit of a background on this.
Yeah, so the customer came to us with kind of a challenge around space and optimizing the interior design of their packaging. And they shipped about 30 truckloads per year. And they thought that perhaps they'd get more on a truck if they looked at kind of from the grassroots approach, the corrugated design to the inserts or dunnage that was designed for that existing pack. And so what we did is we came in and took a look at how they're currently doing it and spent some time in the facility, got some parts in, and then trying to look at things, first of all, from can we optimize the current corrugated configuration, meaning if they don't allow us to change the box, can we get more parts per pack in there? Can we optimize density? We do things like nesting or B2B facing. And so when we took a look at this one, it was pretty clear to us that we could incorporate a new product design we have called interleaf, which is basically a cell within a cell. It's an additional ply of paper there that can separate items within a cell. And so in this case, the parts landed, based on the design and configuration very nicely. But you look at the case study, went from 15 parts on their current pack to 32. So we more than doubled the density, which is just so important throughout the entire supply chain. And, it went from cost per pack of $1.50 to 83. So you factor some additional cost savings just on the material. But at the end, we reduced the number of truckload shipments by 15. So you start thinking about all the incremental costs that go along with that, the staging of it, the cost of the truck, the weighting, potential for more damage, but really focusing on a way that if we take that current packing configuration and get really aggressive around density in our designs. And I think one of the unique things about our product is because our cells are non-intersecting cells or die-cut cells, we can optimize that entire interior dimension. So we don't need things like air spaces or air cells or things like that. Our cells don't intersect or take up space or cannibalize space in there. So I think this is just a really good theme of how we could have taken a look at that pack and just so we could quote a standard 15 pack using our product, but not really move the needle on density or labor savings or line side optimization, those things, and got very aggressive. We first said that we think we get 32 parts in same container. The customers that there's what?
Yeah, exactly. Because if I see this right, it starts out here, which is probably where you got. Just look at the space.
Yeah, the space,
and then coming down into your design here, where that's so cool. Yeah. And I take it here. Here's a question for you, as an old automotive supplier: are these all? Is this like that traditional accordion, kind of like it's already pre-set up and it just drops into the carton, or is this? Give me a little idea, because it's talk about maximizing efficiency here.
Yeah, so it starts with how we, our patents around creating cells with non-intersecting cells or die cut. So we don't have any tooling or dies tied into the process.
That's so cool.
So one, we take out a lot of cost and lead time around there. But two, just because the way we create different size cells, we create interleaf cells, we create a little different orientation of the cells in the pack. It just allows us to be able to really, get aggressive on the optimization of the parts of the pack, and then in the automotive to that. I think they look at your per part cost, and you find ways to really drive that down. In a highly competitive industry, that
big time,
you are really solving some significant problems. Well, so you think of in many cases, the current design that they had, an individual would have had to go grab a carton, erect that carton, and then went to go find the subsequent dividers and somehow find a way to put those together, right? There are two pieces that if you don't build those out right, really the dunnage is not done. Every structural integrity is not used properly, but it takes up multiple SKUs, additional labor. So our solution here comes in a box that's completely collapsible. When the operator opens it up, our dunnage pops open with the box. So
that's what I was getting at. And I just love that. I mean, that is, you talk about efficiency. The one thing I also want to stress here, which I think is one of those things you haven't mentioned, but you have on the part itself, you've got an A side, which is that real, it's susceptible to scratching. So not only in the midst of this are you making it efficient, but you can't jam the stuff in there in a way and allow these parts to get scratched, because that's also a rejection. So being able to do this in something like this that's not going to scratch that A surface is brilliant.
Yeah, and thanks for teeing that up. One of the things that we do is we buy a 20-pound craft liner board that's considered calendar, so it's very smooth on the surface. But we also can apply a no-mark coating to that for the Class A or piano black surfaces. So in this case, obviously that grain side part is very susceptible to marring or scratching. So we use our interleaf no-mar solutions in this, and they had less scratching and marring on top of all the additional benefits around it. Parts per pack and the cost savings and space savings, and really simple.
And so a customer, Jeff, a customer like and we'll get to the other case studies in a second, but so help me understand, at least for our listeners, these people, whoever you're working with, it's not that this is, the conversation is kind of like, they came to you saying, we think our packaging is inefficient, or we think we can actually do this. Was this, if I heard you correctly, what you're saying is this initially started out with some supplier like this, and then you guys were able to kind of come in there and say, we can do a better job like this. Somebody else had this business and you guys had kind of come in with a better design. Did I get that right?
Yeah, and it's an interesting story. Is actually, the customer was searching for partitions and dividers and solutions to try to find out if those suppliers could increase the density or solve whatever challenge they were having. They came across ITV and started navigating our website, then reached out and said, hey, I'm very interested. I'm having some challenges around damage. Our cost per pack is higher than we initially thought it would be, and that impacts our overall margins on these projects. And so we're seeing a lot of that now. What we're getting customers, through the intent-based articles we're publishing, through SEO optimization. But it's amazing. When I look at today, most of our customers that come to us via the website fill out a form about what is their current challenge, what are they trying to solve.
Smart.
And they give us any of the pack information like cell size, quantity, and things like that. It allows us to get to work. Where a year ago, I was getting a lot of inquiries from people in China that wanted to sell me paper bags, or so we started focusing the publications and articles and SEOs and keyword searches on these case studies. We just naturally saw this progression in the quality of our leads, track it, follow. And then I'd say we get a lot of referrals from really good customers that have had a long time.
I could see that.
It said, hey, you really got to give ITB a chance. They solved this problem for me. So, the best sales rep is a satisfied customer.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
If you have a satisfied customer reaching out to somebody on your behalf, that's instant credibility.
Let me ask you a question on this, Jeff. How many turns would maybe you mentioned it, but I mean, this is not a one and done. So this is something that they would use over and over. How many turns, if you were guessing, could they probably get out of this?
Yeah, in this pack, I would say 2 to 3. Now, we do a pack that travels to Mexico from Michigan, and it gets 5 to 7 turns.
How about that?
And some of the times just you have to educate. Like, I think the people on the other end naturally see corrugated and take whatever's out of it. They throw it away.
Yeah. Right.
So you have to properly label, reuse. Here's how you take the tape off the bottom so you're not degrading the quality of the box.
Yes.
Here's how you stack these. nice thing for us is, again, when that box on the other end is when the last part's taken out and they go to collapse it, the dunnage is still in there collapsing with it like it did when it opened. So, but yeah, the multiple, we try to get away from that single use. Some cases our customers do it, but I think more and more they're trying to get multiple trims.
I think that's brilliant. I'm going to pull up the next one here. You've got the doubling the part density, optimizing packaging efficiency. Take us through this one here too, because it's similar, but it looks like there's obviously something else going on. Fill us in on this one.
Yeah, so it's another one where just people are giving us some of their challenges and a standard pack quantity at 30, and really then find a way that they felt that they could optimize that. They're willing to adjust the box a little bit, give some latitude there. But we did in this case is just, they also had a kind of a labor storage handling challenge within that facility. They didn't have proper space allocated for packaging and dunnage, and they had high turnover in that department. So they wanted us to simplify whatever design can take it down to the least common denominator of, find one item, and find multiple items. And hopefully that reduces some labor. So in this case, we just took a look at it and said easily we could double the pack density from 30 parts to 60 parts. Again, you see there's some air cells in some of the other pack A, pack B. And we were able to come up with a couple of different designs that, again, we test, we get really aggressive on how many parts we can get, and we'll send it to the customer with that first trial, first approach to say, listen, is this going to be too labor intensive for an operator? Is this going to be challenging for somebody to get the part out, things like that. But if they're open to us pushing that, we'll get them samples. In this case, we doubled the part density from 30 to 60.
Yeah.
And we eliminated 3 SKUs down to 1, or reduced 3 SKUs down to 1. And just the efficiency they found in that whole operation, and not putting the wrong dunnage, because that's a secondary process in different applications. We eliminate the risk or opportunity for a packer to pick the wrong item. So, and then in the case too, we're able to reduce their cost per pack, largely because our pack costs a little bit more, but we had 60 parts per pack.
I was going to say, 30. That's an absolute no-brainer.
So it's
no-brainer.
You start to look at these things, and what I say, we tend to see common themes with the customers that engage with this. Is number one, we try to focus on that part density.
Right.
2, we try to figure out what are their material handling processes, and what space do they allocate appropriately for packaging. How do they identify and label that? And then we try to then zero in on the density piece, obviously, get creative with interleaf and our elite materials. But then also think about how we identify those packages, make it simple for the operators to use. So we just see that labor savings, that storage savings, that handling savings. In the first example, we went from reduced 15 truckloads per year. That was just so big right there at that point. The customers saying, we'll buy this, regardless of what the cost is at that point. You're just saving so much, logistics cost and handling. So, some kind of themes. And when we think in our expendable, packs, and specifically the paper one, that's a corrugated box. It's a craft liner board paper and a water solid and cold set glue. So that pack's 100% recyclable.
Wow.
And, as you can say, reusable in that, and sustainable, and we lightweight the material. So in some cases we can lightweight the box, we can lightweight the cells inside. So we think those are natural, winners across the board.
What kind of time frame, Jeff, when somebody comes to you for something like this, is because I just knowing you and seeing this, I mean, there's some thought that has to go into this, but this is, you've got a team and you've got people that can kind of lay this out and then kind of conceptualize these cells and things like that. Is that a month? Is that a week? Is that a day? I mean, give me an idea of what that time frame is.
Yeah. So if we get the appropriate data, we call it math data. They send us all the data on the parts, container and orientation, all that. We can download that. And our team, and here's where I'll give a plug to our team. When I took a look at the company in 2019, I was surprised at the talent and the longevity of the team here. And our people here are very committed, not only to the company, but take, the customers very personally and have a lot of interaction with them. So we get that in. We can do a simple design that day or within a day. And again, because we don't have any tooling or dies that we need to wait on to get done, we can take this up to one of our ply line machines that day if needed and start creating samples. But we'll get some design options in front of the customer, generally a good, better, best in terms of pushing density, different materials. And so again, that long sales cycle, we try to do everything we can that's in our control and within our four walls to shorten that. But also I think customers really want that quick response. They want that problem solved right away. And
100%.
They don't want to
and the more you can, they're going to look at you as that partner. I mean, I can just see this. This is just brilliant. Give me an ideas before we wrap up here in a second, but I want to make sure that whatever we do, that we promote you and let people. How do people find you? Is that something we just go to itbpackaging.com, or give me a little idea, because I want to make sure that whatever we do, we promote the fact that this is a game changer here, Jeff. This is not a couple of guys in a garage slapping a few things together. There's some real technology behind this.
Yeah, no, obviously the first way to find out about us is the website. And I'm really proud of, again, the investment we've made in that. We have a ton of great videos on there. We have case studies. Yeah. We have each market. We have the different materials. We have a contact us form there. So you can reach out to us that way. Certainly you can share my information with the team if you want.
I will
after that. But I'd say I try to tell people go to the website first, because I think that allows them to answer questions at their pace and their leisure without saying something to a sales guy. Then the sales guy may be focusing on, we talked earlier, just whatever, naturally comes to mind about. Let them kind of internalize the different options that we have. Let them take a look at some of the videos that we have, some of the case studies. And then just this morning, I came in this morning and we had two very big, companies, one large foreign automakers, and another one, a tier one supplier, reach out to us on the website and just said, wow, I was just really impressed with the content that's available. Or if we Google you, how you're kind of on the first page or second page.
Yeah.
If I drive them to itbpackaging.com, if you fill out that response, it goes to a series of people within the organization. So 4 or 5 of us see that instantly, and then we'll internalize that and then put the right salesperson in touch with that. So,
yeah, I love that, because and we've got to get some information. I know you've gone through this too, but having people fill out or at least tell us about the project. I'm not talking about where it started and who invented the product or whatever it is. We're talking about, I find, and I think you're describing the same thing, is if we give them space, whether it's a form or whatever, the freedom to just, what are you trying to do? What's the project? And by the way, Mr. X customer, potential customer, when do you need this? Because if it's tomorrow, that's probably not going to happen. But next week, or you know what I mean? Things, and I find a lot of times by asking those pre-qualifying questions, and at least sort of, it sets the table for these people to kind of, the more they share, I think what I'm saying is the more they share, the more prepared your team is to be able to kind of get going. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So better information they give us, the better information we can provide them and timelines. And again, I think competitively, when we think of not needing tooling or dies, and we have our own in-house CAD table and we can turn samples around pretty quickly. It allows us to provide a series of different options to the customer. That's not disruptive to the process. Like we picked A and then we went ahead and ordered tooling or dies for A, then only to find out they don't like A, they like B. Well, then you got to start that whole process over. Right. For us, it's a simple adjustment on a quote, which followed all the way through our manufacturing process to an automated ply line machine. So hopefully customers find it easy to deal with ITB. I think that's what we always say, with customer centric. We want to be responsive. And I think, some of these case studies and things we'll see on the website will give them confidence of our capabilities.
Without a doubt.
So, that.
Would you go to, and again, I'm so down on some of these massive trade shows. I mean, because I could see us getting lost in something like this at a trade show, whereas a case study like this and an interview like this and sharing a video like this would be so much more effective than standing in Pack Expo in Chicago for a week, hoping that somebody can comprehend. I'm just so down on some of these trade shows as being a waste of time, unless we can get people there that are truly decision makers.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I've been working trade shows, Pack Expos was a role for 30 plus years. And for our company, Dave, it's a little bit different. We're such a niche, and I say we're a niche within a niche, because our dividers don't provide structural, integrity, and like a die-cut corrugated that you might be looking for stacking strength and things like that, or high speed, inline, beverage application.
Sure.
I just don't feel like the customer traffic would warrant us presenting. What we do is we go to these shows and set up some pre-scheduled meetings with customers that are going to be there, and we'll have some of our samples available. We'll spend time with them, or we'll, sometimes we exhibit our products in some of our channel partners. Like we don't make boxes. We buy boxes from on the other side. We don't make the plastic containers. We like to say we're like BASF. We just make them better. But we'll sometimes promote our solutions when there. But we find these niche shows. There's a show down in Greenville, South Carolina called the Automotive Packaging Summit. I just think it's such a productive environment because they set the tone for really engagement between suppliers and manufacturers and networking and case studies. So in those cases, those smaller summits will attend.
100%. I mean, in my world, because I've done a lot of food packaging over the years, I try to go to these hyper niche. There's one called the Food Evolution Summit in Palm Springs, and where they really encourage, I don't want to say force, but they really encourage people to get together and none of the, who are you? And I'm a big wheel over at Green Giant or whoever. Everybody is somebody. Everybody is there just sort of like trying to learn, and no one's really salesy. And I think that's sort of what you're describing, where it's an efficient trade show where you actually get something out of it, not a posturing as in, we're killing it. You guys suck kind of thing. Like, would you stop, please?
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
All right, friend. Well, now you know that I'm landing the plane. We could talk forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, obviously, this hour just went right on by, and I'm thank you for the time. But if there was anything, and I like to wrap this up, if you were looking out into your crystal ball and just sort of clicking your fingers, waving a magic wand to improve, make a difference, do something different in the packaging space. Any thought on, some people mention sustainability, some people, but anything there? And for example, my world is better communication. My world is explaining to people, as much as you can about, what we talked about this, what packaging is sustainable, recyclable, biodegradable. Just curious on what you would do if you had a magic wand.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll say this, in our staff meetings, we talk about over communicating because I feel that you can't generally over communicate enough. I guess in essence you could if you're just repeating the same thing over, but we're trying to problem solve. We're really trying to communicate in a very open and transparent way, but generally the way somebody's not doing something. So I think to answer your question, I could wave a magic wand, and I see it happening because you're seeing, for example, the evolution of supply chain and logistics. So if you think of degrees coming out of college now, I think Michigan State has the top rated supply chain school in the country. But they have package engineering there. What I would say is if they could get the customer to look at, we talked earlier, from the total cost of ownership perspective and wave a magic wand, I think people were more open to that. And as I said earlier, if you get marketing involved, if you get supply chain logistics, if you get operations and packaging involved, yes, people get territorial and somebody inevitably has to be the smartest person in the room or the loudest voice.
Oh, yeah.
But more times than not, once you get through that nonsense, I think you find that there's good collaboration within that group. So that's one of the things I'd say if I could kind of wave that magic wand is have more companies be open, to putting multiple departments in terms of solving these problems instead of just putting in a silo in one specific, camp and saying, you got to go solve this problem.
Boy, you nailed that too, and I haven't heard it put that way, and I'm not blowing smoke at you, because a lot of times projects start where they just kick it to. It starts with marketing guy, and then the marketing guy is going to kick it to the production guy. The production guy is going to kick it. But if you start out, if I heard you saying this, if you start out where everybody's kind of swimming in the same direction, and it's because oftentimes if you start with just one department, they're going to design it based upon what marketing wants.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it gets to operations, and operation goes, we can't do this.
Yeah.
This is printed 12 colors. There is no such thing. And then it gets to another one going, that's too expensive. We can't. I think what I heard you say, which is really spot on, get people together from the very beginning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do this efficiently, and that'll streamline not only what you guys can do and speed that up, but everybody is swimming in the same direction.
Yeah.
No one's, you're not wasting time.
Yeah, we did a big project with a Fortune 100 company where we told them that. And I think at the end of that process, the operations and engineering team thanked us, because we could be the bad guy, right? We could be the one saying to marketing or to department of thoughts or whatever that perhaps our coworkers might share. But it's on to the guys of, let's just whiteboard this thing. Let's think the good, the bad, and the ugly.
I like it.
And we could be the person that maybe dives into a specific concept or design that maybe engineering really wants, but was afraid to kind of promote it. So sometimes I think we get a lot of really good customers that really look at us as solutions based. We'll have relationships, not just within operations or packaging. We open up with supply chain and marketing, and so I think that's the thing. And then I think, lastly, I'll touch on it. I think you and I've talked about it. Just, for people looking at a career in packaging or wanting to get in packaging. I remember a couple of years ago, I went back and spoke at Michigan State Supply Chain, and a kid asked me a question like, did you always know you were going to be in sales, or do you always know you're going to be a CEO? And I said, yes, on the sales part, but I would tell you is don't try to predetermine your outcome. So you're going in supply chain, right? So obviously you're going to be in logistics and supply chain and probably procurement sourcing, but don't preclude yourself from opportunities in sales or executive team. And so I say, get that experience, right? Cut your teeth somewhere. But if you're open to that, I think the packaging industry, whether you're a sales rep for a manufacturer, distributor, or designer, or global supply chain, I think the opportunities for you rise in that organization are infinite, because supply chain people now are designed to really take a lot of over the cost and waste out of companies. So I believe it with that it's a great industry. A couple dinosaurs like you and I have survived through it.
Exactly.
And there's a lot smarter people coming up behind me, largely within our organization. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be on the show. I'm a big fan.
Jeff, this was awesome for me. This was a thrill, and I'm grateful for you taking the time. And I mean, again, at the end of the day, anybody who downloads this and listens to this will get a really good feel for, well, like I try to explain to anybody, and I know you've gone through this too, when you talk to somebody, whether it's at a Thanksgiving meal or some new picnic, and they go, what do you do? Well, what I do is not the most sexy thing in the world, but it's so needed. It's so valuable. And that's why I'm just all about promoting this as a career for the young people and old, younger at heart, like us, to kind of look at this, because there's a lot. It's not going away. It's definitely not going away.
Yeah. And next time we have more time, I'm going to tell you a story about Arnold Palmer and asking me what I do for a living, and tell the same thing, where it's not sexy, but it pays the bills. But
it sure does. So, it sure does. Yeah. Well, Jeff, thank you again. Hi, everyone. It's David Marinac. I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you want to see more, here's another video that you can check out, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks.